It should be no surprise Ohio State had the most overall selections in CBS Sports preseason All-American teams.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Thursday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, here on Thursday, August 15th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Ohio State is very fortunate this year to have the amount of veteran talent that they have, from Will Howard to Trevion Henderson to Emeka Egbuka to the other side of the ball, where you got Tyleik Williams and Tuimoloau and Simon and Burke. The Buckeyes are littered and full of veteran talent, which is one reason why they are receiving the preseason hype that they are receiving. This time of year, you're going to get some publications out there, ESPN, CBS Sports, The Athletic, that will announce some preseason, maybe Coach of the Year awards or preseason Freshman of the Year awards, or maybe even an All-American team or two. And CBS Sports recently unveiled theirs, and the Buckeyes had 5 players selected, tied with Alabama to have the most overall players selected to be on the CBS Sports preseason All-American teams. And that doesn't shock me. It doesn't shock me at all, because the Buckeyes right now, when you look at this team, we're going to dive into who was actually in this grouping here in a second. But when you look at this team, there are numerous positions out there where you're saying, well, that guy might be top 2 or 3 in the country at his position, or that guy might be top 5 or 6 right now in the preseason at his position. Just wait to see what he does in the fall. He might go from being a top 5 or 6 at the bottom of that grouping to being 1 or 2. Why? Because they're getting better. They've been grinding. And as we all know, iron sharpens iron. The Buckeyes had 2 first-team selections. They had 3 second-team selections. The first-team selections, Donovan Jackson and Caleb Downs. The second-team selections, Quinshon Judkins, Emeka Egbuka, and Denzel Burke. Now, when I look at this list at a glance, and I'm going down, of course, they got offense on the first team, and then defense for the first team, then the specialist, then second team comes up, offense, defense, and specialist there. And I go about it that way because the first Ohio State name that I saw was Donovan Jackson. I'm not sure. I think he can be on one of these lists at the end of the year, but going into the season, I think he's going to be good. But this is a little bit more hype surrounding his name than I would have thought it would have been. And now they talk to people. They got intel all around the country before putting these lists in. So maybe there are things that we just don't know yet about Donovan Jackson. Now, I do believe he was an Iron Buckeye, which is very big. When you get that Iron Buckeye at the end of summer workouts, there were only 10 Buckeye players that got that out of 100. And he is about 100, and he's one of those guys there. Kind of confusing, not going to lie to you, but I'm glad that he is getting at least some recognition for how good he is as a football player. Caleb Downs is a no-brainer. If Caleb Downs was on the second team, I would be questioning whoever the CBS Sports team is that put this together. I'd be saying, do y'all watch ball? Like, I don't care if you watch Alabama. I don't care if you watch Georgia. I don't care if you watch Ohio State. I don't care if you watch Boise State. Do you simply just watch ball? And if you watch ball, then there's a chance you have been able to watch Caleb Downs play football. And if he was on the first team, I would say, how are you evaluating the football and coming to this conclusion? It's a no-brainer. It would not shock me at the end of the year if Caleb Downs is a consensus All-American, because that's how good he is. On the second team, Quinshon Judkins, Emeka Egbuka, and then Denzel Burke. Now, you may be saying, Jay, Judkins on the second team over Henderson? Yes, I have been saying this for a while, more frequently over the past month or so, but I do think Judkins right now is he better overall back, all-around back than Trevion Henderson. Yes, Henderson might be better in space. He might be better with the ball if he's maybe playing in the slot position, but when it comes to just playing running back, that's Judkins. He's got that on lock, which is not a knock to Henderson in his production. It's just saying that, well, one guy is better at playing running back, the true all-around running back position, than the other. which is why I want to go a step further. I want to just reiterate this once again. I do think Quinshon Judkins should start over Travion Henderson this year. Now, this is not to say that Henderson will not start at some point, but I just think Judkins is a better guy that's better suited for what Chip Kelly wants from a running back and what Chip Kelly wants to do with the Buckeyes offense this year. And then you got Denzel Burke. Once again, this is one of those like Downs. If Downs was off any of these lists, I would say you're crazy. And if Burke was off either one of these lists, I would say you're crazy as well. Denzel Burke is going to have so much fun playing football. It's going to be so enjoyable to watch him play. And we're going to be on here on the show after Buckeyes games with our live postcast, which will be starting at the conclusion of the Buckeyes game week 1. I believe that's against Akron. Look, I am excited about Denzel Burke. I am excited about him. He's been talking a whole lot more. He's very confident with the words that he's speaking. And he's even more confident with how he plays the football on Saturdays in the fall. If you're like me and you like good defense, you like guys that talk trash, you got like guys that get a little physical, maybe a little bit more aggressive than others, and you like quarters that are just strictly, hey, don't throw them outside of the field. I'll say it before the game. If you do it during the game, you're going to figure out why I made that statement to you before the game was started. Don't throw them outside of the field. And the issue with that is Igbenogsen's on the other side, and he is going to talk the opposing receiver's head off, and you got Jordan Hancock in the slot. Y'all, the Buckeyes got 3 corners right now that they might be the best trio. If you're talking about 2 outside corners and your nickel corner, even if he doesn't start because you run a 4-3 or a different set that you don't need a guy there in the nickel spot, trust me, what we got right now at Ohio State is a luxury. The fact that Ohio State has these guys on the team at one time is amazing. The fact that they were able to get the 2023 and 2022 SEC Freshman of the Year to transfer during the same cycle, that's unheard of. But that's what Ohio State has right now. Ohio State tied with Alabama for the most overall. They also had Alabama, Ohio State, and LSU all had 2 players on the first team apiece. And so I think that's really high praise. When you think about a preseason All-American team, you may say Tuimoloau, you may say Sawyer. Okay, those are really good players, but they didn't make this cut. No tight end's going to be on there. I think Simmons has a shot to be on there at the end of the year, along with Smith and maybe Tate. I mean, Ohio State could possibly be a team that just takes over this whole entire operation because of how well they play this year. But Ryan Day's built the team, built it for this moment, built it to do what? Accomplish every single goal that Ohio State has set out to accomplish this year. Be the team up north, win the Big Ten, win the Natty. The path to get to the national championship is different and unique compared to every other year in college football history. That's not hyperbole. It's a reality. It'll be tougher to get to the Natty this year, way more tougher than it was in 2014, way tougher than it was in 2002, way tougher than it was back in the 60s. Why? Because the game has changed. The rules have changed. There's a playoff now that's expanded to 12 teams. Ryan Day, yeah, the task is tough. But having these guys on the team, in the locker room, ready to go to battle with you, it's tough. But they're ready to tackle this tough task this offseason. Now, the Buckeyes had 5 guys that are a part of CBS Sports preseason All-American teams, but Will Howard was not a part of that group. Does that surprise you? It doesn't surprise me. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. If you're like me and you love summer, you love baseball in the summer, right before Ohio State takes the field in the fall, you might be saying, well, I got some time to go to a baseball game, but you're struggling to find a place that can help you make your purchase, help you save money, and takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. That place is Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On College Football Podcast. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussion on the upcoming season and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Should Will Howard have been a part of CBS Sports All-American teams, either the first team or the second team? I think it's a realistic and legitimate question to ask. He hasn't been named QB1 at the time, at least at the time of this recording, he has not been named QB1. But the one that we do know is this: Will Howard is a good quarterback. Will Howard started at Kansas State. Will Howard won a conference title at Kansas State. Will Howard did some amazing things there in Manhattan, Kansas. Those things are great. Those things are huge. Those are big reasons why he came to Columbus and why Ohio State wanted him in the first place. However, I ain't shocked he's not on this list. Now, he may be able to be there at the end of the year. I don't think he'll be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country. I'll go that far too. I don't think overall his season as a quarterback will be a top 5 quarterback in the country. That is not saying he's not going to be good. Yeah, he's not going to be no Stroud. He won't be a Haskins. He won't be a Barrett. He won't be a Justin Fields. And y'all, that's okay. And it's also okay for him to not be a part of this group right now. The luxury is he can be a part of this group at the end of the season. How? Just do his job. Do what he came to Ohio State to do. Raise his draft stock, start in Columbus, win a national championship, and be developed by one of the best offensive coaches, one of the best offensive minds in the country, in Ryan Day. Now, I do believe Chip Kelly decided to come to Ohio State, of course, after Bill O'Brien left Columbus to go to Boston College. Chip Kelly comes in. So now Will Howard has something that he did not expect to have when he decided to transfer to Ohio State. That's Chip Kelly in his room. Chip Kelly is not only the OC, he's also the QB coach, the QBC. Now, he don't really go that far. No, QBC don't really hit like you want it to, but you could do RBC or DBC, or it just don't sit right. Secondary coach SC. No, ain't doing the USC, the Trojans, or the Gamecocks. No, neither one. I keep hearing sometimes people saying that the University of South Carolina. Yeah, South Carolina. Don't know why I struggle to get that out. They call themselves the real USC. Pause, stop. No, you're wrong. That ain't it. The one thing that is it, though, is Will Howard's the guy, man. I'm comfortable saying it. I've been saying it for a while. Will Howard is the guy. And when he is surrounded by Emeka Buka, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Will Kazmarek, G. Scott Jr., Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, and the offensive line that the Buckeyes are going to put together, it's going to make his job a whole lot harder. Let's go ahead and add in Patrick Gurd to that conversation as well, because I do believe Patrick Gurd is a guy who's going to be more of that Mitch Rossi role from a couple of years ago. Now, he won't be able to play it probably as well as Mitch Rossi, because it seemed like the H-back, fullback role, maybe a little bit tight end, that suited him very, very well. It did. It was great to watch him play. I don't think Patrick Gurd's going to be that, but Patrick Gurd's still going to be a guy who's going to be a big piece of the Buckeyes offense, and maybe more of an not understudy, lesser known role. That's the word I was looking for. So Will Howard, though, he's in the right place to get developed. He has the right coaches in his corner. He has so many different resources that at his disposal, he might not know what to do with them. Think about you when you were a youngster and you needed someone to help you just to do everything. Wake up. Oh, I can't put my clothes on. Oh, somebody has to help me. Oh, man, I can't get my food together. Somebody has to help me. Oh, man, I'm getting a little bit over. I can expand a little bit. I can do some things, but I still need some assistance. All of a sudden, maybe you're in middle school, but you can't drive. Okay, cool. Somebody helps me here. Maybe all of a sudden you're trying to do some things athletically, but you can go a little bit, but you can't do it all. Cool, somebody helps me. Man, look, one thing about athletics and about sports is there's growth. Will Howard wasn't able to do everything he's going to do in Columbus when he was in Kansas State. Why? Didn't have all the resources. Yeah, there was 11 guys on the field, including him, when he played there in Kansas State. However, the difference is the caliber of talent at Kansas State is not close to the caliber of talent in Columbus, Ohio. And I am not sitting here saying that Kansas State does not have talented football players. I am not that guy. I'm not that naive. I ain't that ignorant. I said it that way on purpose. I will never do that. Kansas State has good ball players, man. Ohio State does too. But there's a little gap between what Ohio State has and what Kansas State has even this year. Some people think Avery Johnson's a better quarterback than Will Howard. That's a little bit of something we have to wait to see. It's literally to be determined. Cool. Whatever side of the fence you're on, it does not matter. Will Howard's in Columbus now. He has more resources at his disposal, not just the players and his teammates, but the coaches too. If he was just being coached by Ryan Day and Ryan Day was still the head coach and was calling plays and kind of the de facto offensive coordinator, de facto QB coach too, even though Corey Dennis was here, if all that was true, if Ryan Day still had the same role, that'd be great for Will Howard. That'd be huge. But Ryan Day's role has changed. Ryan Day is not coaching. He'll coach the same way, but we may get more Georgia Ryan Day instead of, the Ryan Day that you get when sometimes you might be scratching your head wondering, how in the world did we get this far? Will Howard, him being left off, the two quarterbacks, this totally slipped my mind to say this earlier. The two quarterbacks that are on this list right now are Carson Beck and Dillon Gabriel. Carson Beck right now is the preseason favorite for CBS Sports to be their player of the year. Ain't no way in the world that Will Howard's going to get that nod over Carson Beck. And then the second team, Dillon Gabriel's a better quarterback than Will Howard. I'm not afraid to say that. There aren't many games that Ohio State's going to play where the opposing quarterback is better than what Ohio State has from their signal caller. That Oregon game will probably be one of them. I'm assuming that both guys start that game on October 12th. Dillon Gabriel's a better quarterback. But also that does not mean that Oregon's automatically going to win because they have a better quarterback. That's just the reality. So when it comes to Will Howard, I ain't shocked that he's not on this list. But with the resources that he has, the teammates around him, the coaches, Ryan Day and Chip Kelly, it wouldn't shock me if at the end of the season, Will Howard was on the second team or maybe CBS Sports was the third team at the end of the year. Because, after the games get played, you got a whole lot more clarity on the players than if you're trying to do things via what's on paper in the offseason. Whatever it is, though, Will Howard can be there. And Will Howard, assuming he is named the starting quarterback for Ohio State very, very soon, he can make some noise wearing that scarlet and gray and turn heads and maybe bust a head or two all season long. There are 5 Buckeyes named preseason All-Americans via CBS Sports, but Ryan Day and Jeremiah Smith received some preseason honor from CBS Sports as well. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. One thing I always look for is, what do people think about Ryan Day? Ryan Day's a really, 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 really good coach. You're probably like me. You can sit right here right now and say, okay, cool. Ryan Day doesn't have many losses, but the losses he has, I can remember them. 2019 against Clemson, 2020 against Alabama, 2021, the Buckeyes lost to Oregon, and they lost to Michigan. 2022, the Buckeyes lost to Michigan, and they lost to Georgia. 2023, the Buckeyes lost to Michigan, and they lost to Missouri. Now, did I get it correct? Maybe, but what did we find? Well, those things are memorable. I can think about things that happened in all of those games and why Ohio State lost them. Also, it's a weird exercise to really try to figure out who lost what year, why they lost. But also, if you're able to do that, and the coach, I think, is in year 6, year 5 or year 6 as the head coach of a school, he's doing something right. If those are the only losses, you can remember them that well. Well, I can remember them. The writers at CBS Sports can remember them. And also, they're not buying into all that and saying, oh, this is actually what's going to happen. They're going to fall once again. Because right now in the preseason, Ryan Day is the CBS Sports preseason coach of the year. Jeremiah Smith, a man that's hyped up more than any other wide receiver or any other high school prospect at Ohio State, currently at Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith is expected to be a dog. And right now, CBS Sports believes the same thing, as he is CBS Sports preseason freshman of the year. When Ohio State has this combination of coach of the year, freshman of the year, and you think they got 5 guys that are preseason All-Americans, tied for the most with Alabama, the most overall selections, they're doing something right. And also, when there's hype surrounding them, I think it's warranted. I don't think there's anything wrong with it because of what we see currently right now on paper. I am not a person, no, we said it yesterday. I'm not a person that really tries to buy into preseason hype all the time. Sometimes it's overblown. Sometimes it's all about what happened previously, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Then all of a sudden, man, oh, they're going to turn the tide. They're going to right the ship. Maybe not. Clemson. There are people out there with Clemson that are trying to say, oh, they're falling off. Well, that's what's going to happen. Some people are trying to say, oh, Dabo is going to be able to rekindle the fire that the team used to have. I don't know which side of the fence I'm currently on, because I think there's a slippery slope for both, especially this time of year. However, whatever side of the fence you're on, you got to stick with it. And when it comes to Ohio State right now and the hype surrounding them, the high praise that they're getting, I think they deserve it. Donovan Jackson, Caleb Downs, Junkins, Abuka, and Burke are honored as preseason All-Americans. And honestly, I'm not trying to be just some guy or make some hyperbolic statement. It would not shock me if at the end of the season, Ohio State had 2 O-linemen as All-Americans via CBS Sports, if they had a defensive lineman, if they had a linebacker, and if they had multiple, more than 2, 3 or more guys in the secondary part of this. Why? Because I think they'll be that good. I firmly do. I recently came across a clip in my phone from about a couple years ago here on the show, and it was myself and Mo Murphy, who was the host of the Up in Flames podcast. Mo comes on the podcast numerous times a year, especially during the football season, and Mo's talking about, man, people that are harsh critics. And Jeff Hunt, who's another podcaster, host of the Jeff Needs Sports podcast, part of the OG3 at the Off the Ball Network. Jeff came on the show, and Mo, Jeff, and I, we know each other. We cut up. We do what guys do, and he was talking about Jeff initially, about how harsh of a critic Jeff is. And then this joker turned this thing around to me and said, hey, bro, you're not too far off. He said, I've been on here during shows in the season after losses, and I have seen and heard how you talk about this team. And I'm like, hey, bro, you're right. I'm harsh. I understand it. But one thing we do when it comes to being harsh critics, it's about being realistic. It's very hard to be all the way realistic when we ain't got no games played. But when games start getting played, we can try to use the game film and use the data, use the numbers, but more importantly, use the eye test, what we see with our own 2 eyeballs, to properly gauge what a team might be on the field in the fall. And ultimately, when we get to the games, I'm looking forward to seeing how good the team is going to be. Yeah, it's natty or bust. I think what we're seeing right now via the AP poll, the Buckeyes being the number 2 team in the AP poll, what we're seeing right now, it was CBS Sports preseason All-American teams. Buckeyes got 5 selections, tied with Bama for the most overall, with Ryan Day being the preseason coach of the year for CBS Sports and Jeremiah Smith being the preseason freshman of the year for CBS Sports. What we're seeing is the hype train is picking up speed. And it's only going to keep picking up speed, more and more and more speed, until that season starts. And then once they start rolling, picking up more speed, roll right through Austin Stadium. Hey, they win that game, going to continue to pick up speed. Why? Because the train, it's moving quickly. Ain't played a game yet, but it's moving quickly. And as more publications come out with these preseason lists, All-American teams, Coach of the Year for the preseason, things of that nature, what are we going to find? More and more hype will surround Ohio State and what they might be this year. Cool. What they might be goes out the window once the Buckeyes get on the field and we get to see exactly what they're going to be this year. And y'all, I think this team has the makings of making this season very, very special. I've been saying it for a long time. I'm going to say it a whole lot more as we get closer to the season. I firmly think this is going to be a special year for Ohio State. I'm not saying what awards are going to win individually or as a team. I'm not going that far yet, but I do think, though, this year is going to be special. Their quarterback is not going to be one of the top 3 or 4, maybe even 5 quarterbacks in the country, but he should need to be when you got the outside skill positions that way they are. You got the offensive line that's going to be better than it was a year ago. When you have one of the best defenses in the country, your quarterback does not need to be otherworldly. What does he need to do? Simply just do his job. I don't know if it's going to be Devin Brown, Will Howard, maybe Julian Sands there, even though it sounds like from Ryan Day that Julian Sands is not. I don't think it could do enough via that scrimmage or in the practices this week to move back into being in the mix of the QB competition, which is A-okay. A-okay. I'm looking forward to watching these boys play in the fall. And Ryan Day, use this as motivation. Getting this honor right now, it's huge, but use it as motivation to do what you need to do as the head coach of the football team in Columbus to lead this team, not only lead them to the promised land, don't just get them there, let them be fruitful and let them conquer. I went all churchy on you. Let them conquer that thing when they get there in January. The game's going to be late, man. The national championship is going to be late in January. But get there, win that thing, and capitalize on what would have been a special season at Ohio State. I want to apologize right now. There were some issues recording this show. I'm not really sure what happened. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of the day. Now go check out the Locked On College Football Podcast. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to Locked On College Football in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're out of here on a Thursday, Buckeye fans. We'll see you next time.